The murder of the Bricca family is frequently described as the crime that changed a safe family neighborhood forever. Never mind the fact that the Cincinnati Strangler had already been wandering the very same area. When a killer targets one small demographic and everyone else no longer feels safe, that's a profound shift. Because what happened to the Bricca family could happen to any of us. Join me for a ride through strange and mysterious here at Odd Mysteries Stories. In 1966, a dark cloud hovered over Cincinnati, marking a tragic chapter in its history. We're talking about the Bricca family murders, a case shrouded in mystery and speculation. Jerry Bricca, a 28-year-old mechanical engineer, had found his calling at Monsanto, a company he was so passionate about that it led him to uproot his family from Seattle to Cincinnati 3 years prior. His dedication was unwavering, often spilling into weekends like on that fateful Sunday. But behind the curtains of professional success, whispers of turmoil swirled. Rumors about Linda Bricca, Jerry's wife, and a former airline stewardess hinted at a troubled marriage, sparking speculations of an affair. It's these little details, these fragments of their lives, that add layers to the story. Let's pause and picture this. It's around 9 p.m. and Jerry steps outside to take out the trash. That's the last time anyone sees the Bricca family. What transpired after is a tapestry of assumptions and minimal evidence. The forensic puzzle suggests they met their tragic end on that very Sunday night. How do we piece this together? Well, it's a mix of science and circumstance. Stomach content analysis points to the time of death, and then there's that unanswered phone call at 6:30 a.m. Monday. A seemingly mundane detail, yet it speaks volume. And outside, their uncollected trash cans lingered, a silent testament to the abrupt halt of life. As we delve deeper, we learn more about Jerry and Linda's relationship. It wasn't the picture of marital bliss around the time of their murders. This fuels the debate about a possible love triangle, an alleged affair. It's these human elements, these imperfections and secrets that keep us engaged, wondering what really happened. The Bricca family murders remain unsolved. On an otherwise ordinary morning in the peaceful suburb of West Side, Cincinnati, the air was tinged with the crispness of an approaching autumn. It was 1966, a year that would be etched in the memories of the residents of Green Township for a grim reason. Picture this setting, a modern yet modest three-story house in this tranquil neighborhood. It's hard to believe that this very house would become the scene of one of the most disturbing crimes in Ohio's history. The Bricca family, comprising Jerry, his wife Linda, and their 4-year-old daughter Debbie, lived in this home. It was in this supposed safe haven where their lives were brutally cut short. All three were tortured and murdered, leaving a mystery that, even after decades, remains unsolved. Today, I'm going to walk you through the chilling details, the sparse evidence, and the theories that have surfaced over the years. Fast forward to Tuesday, and the ambience in Bridgetown, a friendly area of Cincinnati, had shifted. Something was amiss. The Bricca dogs were incessantly barking, raising the alarm among the neighbors. Concerned Richard Mayer, a neighbor, made a call to Jerry's office, only to discover that Jerry hadn't shown up since Sunday. The unease deepened when another neighbor, Dick Jansen, repeatedly called the Bricca residence with no response. Compelled by a foreboding sense, Mayer and Jansen approached the family home on Greenway Avenue, their apprehension growing with each step. Imagine the scene: they knock, but no answer. Richard Mayer reaches for the door handle, turns it, and to his dismay, it's unlocked. As he pushes the door open, a hauntingly familiar scent hits him, a scent reminiscent of his days as a World War II soldier, the unmistakable smell of death. Wisely, they refrained from entering the house, a decision that preserved the integrity of the crime scene. However, in a twist, the police asked Mayer to enter the home to identify the deceased family. Although Mayer and Jansen were briefly questioned, it was clear they were merely concerned neighbors, not suspects. But then, an intriguing piece of information surfaced: a third neighbor was not as forthcoming. What could this mean? Could this reticence hide something more sinister? The plot thickens, and the mystery of the Bricca family murders deepens. When the police entered the home, they were prepared for the worst. They knew it was going to be gruesome, but they didn't expect the crime scene to be so unusual. 23-year-old Linda and her husband Jerry were both dead in the master bedroom. Linda had been stabbed in the torso 6 times and 2 more times in her head and neck. Her nightgown was torn at the breast, and she was meticulously placed on top of her husband. According to FBI statistics, posing only happens in approximately 1% of murders, so this was a peculiar signature. Jerry was stabbed in the back 4 times, in the head twice, and 3 more times in the neck. Furthermore, a sock was stuffed into his mouth. Wrist marks also showed that both parents had been bound with rope and probably some type of tape. A little bit of tape was found in Jerry's mouth, seemingly to keep the sock in place. The posing of the body, as well as the stabbings, led many to believe that this was personal, a crime of passion. The killer removed both the tape and rope from the crime scene. Linda and Jerry's 4-year-old daughter Debbie was also killed in her bedroom. She was stabbed 4 times, and since she was so tiny, the stab wounds literally passed through her entire body. The murder weapon was never found, which appeared to be a carving knife taken from the kitchen. Also, the direction of the stab wounds indicated that the killer was left-handed. Debbie was found wearing one sock, which some thought was strange, but we could be overthinking this detail. Most parents will tell you that toddlers sometimes wake up with one sock. They twist and turn a lot, so it's certainly not uncommon. In my research, I couldn't determine if the sock in Jerry's mouth was Debbie's missing sock or just another random sock. If one of my viewers has the answer to this question, please let me know in the comments. But the question remains, did Debbie just naturally end up with one sock, or did the killer take it off? If her missing sock was the one in Jerry's mouth, then I understand, but from what I read about the evidence, it wasn't the same missing sock from the baby. Either way, the theory goes, once Jerry got back into the house, he enjoyed some quiet time and took Linda away from her laundry duties and took her to their bedroom upstairs. The Monday morning paper was missing, so detectives theorized the killer stayed in the home at least until dawn, possibly even wrapping the knife and evidence in the newspaper and throwing it all out in the garbage can. By mid-morning, it would be on its way to the municipal dump. So what do you think? Was it a crime of passion, a result of domestic turmoil, or something else entirely? In this haunting tale of the Bricca family murders, the details only thicken the mystery. Consider this, Jerry, the family patriarch, was the only one gagged. This peculiar detail raises unsettling questions. Was Jerry kept alive to witness the horrific deaths of his wife and daughter? Was the gag a form of punishment? And why wasn't Linda gagged? Or was she, perhaps her gag, like her bindings, was removed post-mortem? The absence of clear answers leaves us grappling with speculation. Now let's delve into the mystery surrounding Linda. Her reputation in the neighborhood was a topic of hushed conversations, hinting at not just one, but possibly multiple affairs. Could a crime this brutal be the work of a jealous lover? It's a theory that can't be entirely dismissed. However, a crucial aspect of the evidence suggests otherwise. The crime scene points to a perpetrator not new to killing, someone with a chilling level of experience. But then again, in a case as perplexing as this, can we rule anything out entirely? Could Linda have been unknowingly entangled with a seasoned killer? The context of the time adds another layer to the puzzle. In the year of the Bricca murders, Cincinnati was grappling with at least 7 other unsolved murders. Amidst this backdrop, we learned something more about Linda's life. A friend of hers confided to Cincinnati magazine that Linda's behavior had shifted in the months before the murders. She seemed to be on edge, possibly aware of 2 other women who had been killed that year, one just a week prior. Such incidents could shake anyone to their core. Linda's growing protectiveness over Debbie, her daughter, now takes on a new meaning. She became more vigilant, refusing to let Debbie walk home alone even from nearby houses. Was this heightened concern a response to the recent murder in their community? Or was it driven by a more personal threat to her daughter? The pieces of the puzzle are there, yet they refuse to fit neatly together. Each detail, each possible connection, only deepens the mystery. Was Linda's altered behavior a forewarning of the tragedy that was to befall her family, Or were these the actions of a mother instinctively shielding her child in a time of unseen danger? A critical aspect of the Bricca family murder investigation, which profoundly impacted its direction and outcomes, was the forensic technology available in the 1960s. During this era, the capabilities for analyzing physical evidence were significantly limited compared to modern standards. Key evidence, such as fingerprints found at the crime scene, presented a baffling puzzle. They did not match the family members, but frustratingly, could not be linked to anyone else due to the rudimentary fingerprint databases of the time. Compounding these challenges was the handling and preservation of other crucial evidence. Hairs found in Linda Bricca's hand, potentially a significant lead under today's forensic practices, could not be adequately analyzed with the techniques available then. This unfortunate situation extended to other physical evidence, which, due to inadequate preservation methods of the period, deteriorated to a state that rendered them unsuitable for the advanced DNA testing technologies developed in later years. This shortfall in forensic capability fundamentally shaped the investigation. It led to a reliance on less scientific and more speculative methods of crime solving, such as piecing together eyewitness accounts and constructing theories based on the limited physical evidence that was available and interpretable. The inability to utilize the forensic advancements of later decades has left the Bricca case mired in mystery, with crucial questions unanswered and numerous theories unverifiable. The story of the Bricca family murders thus not only speaks to the tragedy of the crime itself, but also to the evolving nature of criminal investigations and the pivotal role that advancements in forensic science play in uncovering the truth. The house was ransacked, yet nothing of value was taken. The absence of firearms suggests that it wasn't a mob hit, and it probably wasn't a serial killer since there were no other murders with the same pattern in Cincinnati, even though there were 7 unsolved murders in the area. Investigators believe that the killer was emotionally involved with the family. Maybe they knew the murderer and allowed them into their home because there were no signs of forced entry. The stab wounds and torture suggest the crime was personal, with the killer believing the only solution was to murder them. Leading the investigation into the chilling Bricca family murders was Lieutenant Herbert Vogel, who faced a case riddled with perplexities and scarce clues. One detail that immediately struck him as odd was the behavior of the family dogs on the night of the murders. They were found locked in the downstairs family room, strangely silent during the attack. This raises a critical question. Was it the family who confined the dogs, or was it the work of the killer? This detail might hint at a familiarity between the killer and the Briccas. Could the dog's silence suggest that they recognized the assailant? The alternative theory, perhaps more sinister, is that the dogs were sedated. This notion gains some traction considering that the very next day the dogs were vocal again, as if any effects of sedation had worn off. Adding to the enigma, a witness reported seeing 2 men getting into a vehicle outside the Bricca home on Saturday night. But what does this mean? Richard Mayer, a neighbor deeply affected by the tragedy, referred to the perpetrators as bastards in the plural, hinting at the possibility that more than one person was involved. His use of the word those when speaking of the culprits, especially in reference to the innocent Debbie, could indicate a belief among locals that the crime was committed by multiple individuals. However, if 2 men did indeed leave the home on Sunday night, a baffling scenario emerges. A third person might have remained behind to remove the newspaper from the driveway on Monday morning. Alternatively, the perpetrators could have returned the next day, but that would have been an enormous risk, making it seem less likely. The pieces of this puzzle are as confounding as they are intriguing. Each detail, from the behavior of the dogs to the witness sightings, only deepens the mystery. Was the killer someone the Briccas knew, or were there multiple assailants involved in this heinous crime? In a brief theory analysis of the Bricca family murders, Lieutenant Vogel pieced together a possible sequence of events from the clues at the crime scene. The partially folded laundry in the family room suggested that the family was watching TV and preparing to put their daughter Debbie to bed. It's theorized that during this time, the killer may have been lurking outside, watching from the garden. When Jerry took Debbie upstairs, the assailant likely entered through the back door and confronted Linda. The events that followed are less clear. Somehow, both parents were convinced or coerced to be bound, and the dogs were either drugged or locked in the downstairs room. In a chillingly quiet ordeal, all three family members were then fatally stabbed. There's also an indication that non-consensual sex occurred during this violent attack. This theory, while speculative, paints a disturbing picture of the family's final moments. Exploring another theory in the Bricca Family Murders reveals a potentially different sequence of events. This alternative narrative hinges on a critical piece of evidence: the pathologist's certainty that Linda Bricca engaged in sexual intercourse before her death. The nature of this act, whether consensual or forced, remains unclear. We can deduce, based on stomach content analysis, that the crimes likely occurred on Sunday night. It's also reasonable to assume that Debbie, being 4 years old, was already asleep when Jerry stepped out to take out the trash around 9 p.m., as most children her age would be in bed by then. In this version of events, Linda and Jerry are upstairs, possibly intimate, unaware of the looming danger. Meanwhile, the killer silently enters the family room and deals with the dogs. Whether this involved drugging them, possibly with spiked treats, or simply locking them up, is not certain. Any noise made during this process might have gone unnoticed by Linda and Jerry, preoccupied as they were. Tragically, they were oblivious to the fact that this night would be their last. While this theory offers a plausible explanation for the situation with the dogs, but it still leaves many questions unanswered. Analyzing the limited evidence in the Bricca family murders, it's challenging to conclude whether the killer, or possibly killers, were known to the family. If a single individual acted alone, using a knife instead of a gun raises question. A knife would seemingly put the assailant at risk during a physical confrontation with Jerry, a protective father, and wouldn't necessarily prevent Linda from screaming. The killer might have acted immediately or waited until the parents were finished with their activities. However, maintaining silence in the house suggests the possible use of a gun, at least as a threat. An alternative theory posits that the killer could have entered Debbie's room first, using her as leverage against Linda and Jerry. Linda, desperate to protect her child, might have been coerced into binding Jerry. This theory surmises that Debbie was not an initial target, but became one after potentially waking up and stumbling upon the assailant. This hypothesis draws parallels to a similar crime that occurred 3 years later in the vicinity. Despite the various theories, the central question remains why. The scant physical evidence complicates the task of connecting the dots. If the dogs weren't drugged, the killer was adept at controlling them. The bindings used on the victims were premeditated and removed after serving their purpose, indicating a level of planning and efficiency. The similar knife strokes used on Linda and Jerry suggest a perpetrator accustomed to such violence, a routine set in the horrific act. The excessive force on Debbie's wounds could indicate hatred or a chilling, calculated precision. The scarcity of evidence leans towards the involvement of a professional killer, possibly one with prior experience. The crime scene had a few open drawers and Jerry's missing wallet, but investigators felt this was staged to mislead. Linda's torn pajamas might have been part of this staging, intended to create false leads. If the staging was not the case, it could have been a burglary gone awry. However, the extent of violence seems excessive for a mere burglary, especially against a family unknown to the thief. Detectives were inclined to believe that the killer was acquainted with the Bricca family. In the perplexing Bricca family murder case, one individual drew suspicion from investigators: Fred Leininger, a veterinarian and neighbor to the Bricca family. Linda Bricca reportedly worked with him for a time, and rumors circulated about a possible affair between them. Of the 400 people interviewed by Lieutenant Vogel, Leininger stood out for his refusal to cooperate, a fact that only fueled further speculation. It's crucial to note that there's no concrete evidence directly linking him to the murders. However, certain circumstantial evidence raises eyebrows. Although he was never officially named a suspect, Leininger's decision to hire a lawyer was seen as unusual, drawing attention. His profession as a veterinarian added another layer of suspicion, particularly regarding the dogs. Who else would have the expertise to drug dogs effectively? Some reports even claimed that drugs were confirmed in the dogs. Moreover, a vet would likely be less unnerved by blood, and interestingly, the tape found on Jerry's chin was identified as medical tape. Adding to the intrigue, Debbie reportedly knew Leininger and called him Uncle Freddy. Yet, opinions remain divided. The limited evidence does somewhat point towards a veterinarian, but the question arises, could someone commit such a heinous act and then return to a normal life for 4 decades, as if nothing happened? On closer inspection, Leininger hiring a lawyer could be seen in a less incriminating light. As an affluent individual with a business reputation and marriage to protect, seeking legal counsel might have been a strategic move to avoid any discussions about alleged affairs. The motive, however, remains elusive. The theory of if I can't have her, no one can could apply, but then why would he harm Debbie, an innocent child? This leads some to doubt his involvement. The brutality inflicted on Debbie was hard for many to comprehend. However, since Debbie knew him and could recognize him, it's speculated that she was killed to eliminate a witness. Yet, this doesn't explain the extreme nature of the violence. Despite these theories, Fred Leininger lived under a cloud of suspicion, magnified by police surveillance and neighborhood gossip. In 2004, he and his wife ended their lives, leaving many questions unanswered and adding another tragic layer to the already complex and unresolved Bricca family murder case. Another theory in the Bricca family murder case pivots towards the possibility that Jerry or Linda knew something that made them targets, potentially indicating a professional hit. Jerry's employment at Monsanto, a prominent biotechnology and chemical company, is a focal point in this hypothesis. It's speculated that he might have uncovered something at work that could have been damaging to the company's reputation. However, without concrete details about his work or any supporting evidence, this remains in the realm of speculation. Plus, there is Linda's past as an airline stewardess also adds an intriguing dimension. According to unconfirmed stories, she may have played a role in disrupting a drug ring during her tenure as an airline stewardess. If true, this could provide a motive for a professional hit, but again, this lacks solid evidence and original sources to substantiate the claim. The mystery of what transpired on that fateful Sunday encompasses a range of theories, from professional hits to extramarital affairs. Unfortunately, the likelihood of solving this case is diminished by what appears to be inadequate preservation of evidence by law enforcement. This leaves us with little more than theories to piece together the events of that night. Amid these theories and speculations stands author J.T. Townsend, who has dedicated many years to studying the Bricca family murders. His deep dive into the case includes examining crime scene photos, reviewing police reports, and pondering various theories. Townsend's commitment to understanding this unsolved mystery culminated in his book Summer's Almost Gone, which offers an in-depth exploration of the homicides. For those interested in delving further into this perplexing case, I'll provide a link to Townsend's book in the comments. As we reach the end of our exploration of the Bricca family murders, it's time to reflect on the various pieces of this complex puzzle. Who do you think was responsible for this heinous crime? Could the jobs of Jerry and Linda Bricca have inadvertently entangled them with dangerous individuals? The scarcity of conclusive evidence opens the door to a multitude of theories. One figure who stands out in this case is Fred Leininger, the veterinarian neighbor. The circumstantial evidence pointing towards him, such as the possibility of drugging the dogs and the use of medical tape, is intriguing, yet it's important to remember that these are just that, circumstantial. Even if an affair between Linda and Fred occurred, it doesn't automatically imply he was the murderer. Affairs, though scandalous, don't typically lead to murder. Furthermore, the motive in this context is still unclear. Would Fred still be a suspect if the rumors of the affair hadn't surfaced? His expertise with animals and access to veterinary supplies certainly add to the suspicion, but is that enough to deem him guilty? Now, I turn to you. What are your thoughts on this perplexing case? Do you see Fred Leininger as a likely suspect, or do you believe the killer might be someone entirely different? Could this tragedy be tied to the professional lives of Jerry and Linda, or is there another angle we're missing? Share your theories and insights in the comments below. Your perspective could shed new light on this dark and yet unsolved mystery. I hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying the videos on my channel. My name is Vince, and if possible, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting new videos each Monday and Friday. Clicking the little bell will send you a notification when a new video is posted. In the meantime, I invite you to watch one of my other videos on your screen. Thank you.